Hello, Meg Miller, an Adult Services Librarian here at Pflugerville Public Library, bringing you another Crafty at Home Cafe. For this one, I'm really excited. This is a DIY Etch Art. It's probably something you're familiar with, where you scrape off the top. I actually got a little kit for this, actually from a coworker for Christmas, and I was really excited. So I kind of started looking for ways that I might be able to recreate this as a craft. So again, for the first 40 people who were able to register to pick up a material supply kit from the library, what you're going to be getting this time is coming in a handy little bag here. Sticking right out of the top. If you've done crafts with us before, you may have seen this paper. It's one that I really like. We've got 2 sheets of the Arteza that actually folds into a canvas. So once we've completed our craft, we'll have something that'll be able to kind of stand up on its own and be displayed. Additionally, in here you are going to be getting a little bag that is going to have 7 different colors of, these are pastels. This is a craft I've seen that you could do with crayons, but for this one we've sent pastels. There are 2 dowels in here, one flat one for kind of scraping a larger portion of the top off, and one that is actually a bamboo skewer with a pointed end. So if you want to do writing or something a little bit more detailed. And then we have the foam brush, which you will use to paint the paint over the top. And the last piece you'll get out of the bag is a little container of the black paint. Now this is tempera paint mixed with dish soap for the top layer of our Etch Art. So now that we have all of our supplies together, let's grab a drink and let's start crafting. Okay, so I've got all my supplies pulled out. If you're counting, I definitely have a few extra colors of pastels here, but that's just for the crafting purposes. Everybody got 7. This piece of paper here, as I said, there are pieces that pull off that you can actually see where it comes off, and so really the only place that we're going to be coloring is on the inside square. When we paint, I'm going to go ahead and paint the pieces that would fold over, so that I have that black color all the way around to the edges of the canvas. I might seem a little zoomed in. This is actually a slightly bigger piece of paper from a previous craft that we did that I'll be coloring on for this example. The first time I did this, I actually just took the pastels and kind of colored a little bit everywhere, so that as I etched off, you'll see later, I just didn't know what color was going to come out from the other side. This time around, I think I'm going to be a little bit more particular, and I'm going to go for kind of an inverted rainbow. So I'm going to start with the reds on the outside and work my way to purple in the middle. If I were a little bit more perfectionist, I would definitely measure these out to make sure I had each of my pieces where I wanted, but I don't really need that for this particular craft because I've done test runs. My pastels, I'm going to need to pull off a little bit of paper. So I definitely want to get really good coverage underneath with my pastel. I don't want to go too thick because then I'll end up with kind of, the crayons roll the wax underneath. And I don't really want that under the paint because it will pull off the paint a little bit later. But I definitely want to make sure that I don't see any white underneath here. I don't want to get my fingers a little dirty. I'm just going to kind of wipe through, and that will get all the pastel right into the paper, so it's a smooth filled in color. As I said, I'm doing this top and bottom. So I'm going to come here, do the same. Oh, broke my pastel. It's all right. We know broken crayons still color. And actually makes it a little bit easier for me to get some coverage here. Once I get to the next color, the orange, I'm gonna kind of want to make sure that if I'm gonna do this finger trick again, that my finger is cleared off so that I don't mix the colors, or maybe that's what I'm going for and I do want to mix the colors. So when I come here to the next one, color across, again making sure I get good coverage, and then maybe I'll just pick a different finger. This is the orange finger. Yeah, see there, I've got a little bit of red that kind of pulls in, but looks cool. And as I said, I'm doing my little inverted, so I'm gonna get my orange on this next side. Oh, make sure I'm doing the right finger. So you can kind of see there are some crumbs, little dustings on the paper, and I'm going to make sure that I get those all up before I start my paint. And I have found this out because in previous times of testing this craft out, I did not make sure of that, and so when I painted later and then saw the little bump, it came right off. The paint came off the top and the color was showing from underneath, which again, part of crafting, you just kind of make it work. All right, red, orange, yellow. And a little bit of yellow on this side. I'm not too worried about the fact that I got a little red there in the middle, as the colors that are coming next will cover it. So let's use a finger on the other hand, because I haven't stepped away to clean my fingers off. So my yellow on this side is very red. Alright, let's get a little more yellow in there. There we go. Alright, and I'm gonna keep moving on to more colors. And move on to green. Oh, that might be a little bit too much green on this side. I'll have to make a thinner green on this one. I did also see this kind of craft tutorial done with crayon. I liked the pastel coverage a little bit more when I was testing, but it is something that you could probably do if you've just got some old crayons around to cover up the paper. Alright, I get a few. I want to brush off most of these bigger chunks before I get ready to paint. And if I was going just a little bit slower and kind of being a little bit more meticulous about this, I wouldn't really be getting, especially the green. Here, I've got a bunch of green in this yellow, so I kind of work it in there. And my favorite color in the middle. There we go. Alright. And so I've got coverage all the way across, making sure that I'm definitely, I can see where the edge, the fold to make the canvas later is. So I'm just making sure I've got everything in there. Alright. Clean this up. Alright, so I am actually going to be ready to start painting over this. Just going to use my foam brush to kind of brush off the extra bits. I won't need my design tools just yet. So on our canvas paper here, again, there is, you can see where the edges are ultimately going to be. So when I paint over, I'm definitely going to make sure that I cover those. If you'd prefer to leave them white, that's completely up to you. You may want to be a little bit better about meeting that corner there. This is tempera paint, poster paint, mixed with a little bit of dish soap to kind of give it a little bit more liquidity and to help it for the scratching later. So actually it smells a little bit better than regular paint. So I'm just putting some of my foam brush here, and I'm really going across very thickly so that we get good coverage. And for this side, I'm just doing those corners there, as I mentioned, the edges. Now for mine, I did decide to do, for the example, a second coat. So I was really sure I got some good coverage over my pastels. It may be something that you decide to do too. This is one of those crafts where you're going to end up pausing the video and coming back with us, because once we get this paint laid down, we're going to give it at least an hour to dry, and then come back to it, maybe add an extra coat before we start our etching design. So total crafting time for a project like this is going to be a couple hours. You won't actively be crafting the entire time, but you will be able, it will take a little while for the drying time. So things like this that we might not necessarily have been able to do in a hour-and-a-half long in-person library program, I'm really excited to do with you guys, because we can do the pause and come back. All right, so I think it's a little hard to tell in the camera view there, but I want to make sure I've got full coverage. Because this is kind of heavy paint, you may be able to see that my paper is starting to kind of flex up a little bit. So while I let this dry, I'm actually going to grab a couple of things I have nearby that are fairly heavy, and I'm going to go ahead and lay them down on this to just help it stay as flat as possible, so that later when I come back and fold it into a little canvas for display purposes, then it won't have kind of the warps or anything. So as I'm pulling off my brush here, I don't know if you can really see that there are bubbles in there, which is the fun of having dish soap mixed in with your paints. All right, while this dries, because I want to use my foam brush again, I'm going to take it to the sink. I'm not really going to need to add soap even, since it's got soap in the paint. I'm just going to rinse it off and allow it to dry while this is all drying, so that we're ready to add a second coat once it's dry. So our paint has dried. I've done a second layer, magic of video. As I mentioned on this example, you can kind of see this one little speck of green right here. As you saw in the previous clip, there was a bit of the chunk of the pastels. I didn't really smooth it in as well as I could have, so some of that has come up. But that's not too bad. Once I get into scraping a design on, it really won't be able to tell. So at this point, I can go ahead and pull my corners off. I'm not gonna fold into the canvas shape before I draw my design, only because I'll have the support of the table underneath the paper, which I wouldn't if I had already folded over the edges. So the messiness of my paint along the outsides, again, won't matter because it is going to be folded over. So I've got my little scraps there to the side. Two styluses. If you've got other things that you can use as a stylus around the house, you're more than welcome to. We just provided, this one was just a little bit flat, so I'll be able to get off more pieces of the paint in one swipe. I liked my example. I did a little kind of corner detail, so just using the edge of this, I can really pull off a bunch more of the black paint than if I were using just the small. Again, I want to make sure my workspace is protected and that I'm wearing clothes that I don't mind too much possibly getting a little bit dirty. Oh, and because this time, remember, I did the colors, so each of my corners is actually going to be the same color, which it wasn't on my example. Get a little bit of red there. here. Right. Like that. So I've got little corner details on each of these. I think for this one, I want to do a welcome sign, let's say. So I don't have the greatest skill with calligraphy. I'm sure some of you are much better than me, but I'm just gonna give it the old college try here and do a bit of a cursive. Oh, that's turning out so cool. So there's my W, and you can see it's, oh, sorry about that. It's got the yellow to green, blue into the purple right there in the center. There we go. Let's see how well my cursive has held up here. Let's go for the next bit of welcome. And a little extra curly Q. Right. There we go. And the O is gonna get me. Alright. And bonus curly Q here at the end. Alright, so I've got welcome on there. Let's see, maybe I want to do a little bit of a line underneath. And because it's February and yesterday was Valentine's Day, I'll put myself a little heart up here in the corner. Welcome. All right, so now that I've drawn my design on there, I am ready to fold this into the form of the canvas. So here's my little example here. Like I said, I did my corners. On this one, you can see my colors are just kind of all over the place, where on this one, my colors were the kind of gradient rainbow there. So I'm going to get my little folds, turn it face down, each edge over. You can tell where the lines are that are folds. So I've got one here, I've got one farther down, and then I've got a third one here. So I'm just gently folding those up on all four sides. Definitely gonna have to wipe off my table here when I'm done. And on the edges, you've got a piece here where it is slit through, and then a piece in the middle makes a little X plus sign that is cut through. So it's going to be where your sides, you see we've got little tabs here, are going to slide right in. So I'm going to do the short end first. I'm just going to roll it up now that I've made those folds. So my plus sign is on the top, and my two little slats are here. So there's that. And then I'm going to come over with one side. These little corner ends are going to fold up and fold in to each side. So I'll roll my little sides around again. I've got my two tabs here. They're going to slide in. Make my fold here. And so you'll see this slit matches up with this tab. So I'm going to get that to slide in there. Roll my corner up. And there's my edge. So there's my canvas ready to go. Flip it around. Let's do the other side. So again, my little tabs here on the corner are going to go in the short ends. There we go. Fold down. And my tabs here are going to go right into the slices. Alright. You can kind of fold that. So there I have a nice little welcome sign. I can set up somewhere, and again, I painted all around the edges, although I can see some of the paint is kind of coming off on the edges, and that just gave me an idea that I want to actually scrape those corners and get a little bit more of that color popping through. My top and my bottom are going to be just red, because that's how I did my colors. But on the sides there, I get a little bit more color. All right. So we hope you enjoyed this DIY etch art, and then it's something you can recreate, or for those who have the material kits, we hope that you show us images, share pictures on either your own social media and tag us, or comment on the Facebook video of this craft tutorial, or share it on one of our other social media platforms. We hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time.